Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing well. Happy New Year and welcome back to the channel. So I hope everyone enjoyed their Christmas holidays and New Year celebrations, and now that that's all subsided, we're back into the routine of a new year. So the way I'm going to commence the channel for this year is by doing somewhat of an annual tradition. I'm going to participate in the Metal Tag 2025. So if you're not familiar with that, it's a questionnaire originally designed by Scott from the Rock Scout over in Scotland, but he got very busy with his new business, so it's actually been taken over by the guys over at Heavy Metallurgy, so Marty and Alan. So they've done it for the last, I think starting last year actually. So if you're not familiar with the Metal Tag, it's a series of questions, and so obviously you need to answer those, and you answer those by showing examples from your collection. So it's just a really interesting way to get an insight into a person's musical taste, and to show people what you like, that kind of thing. And as many people have said, if you're considering starting a YouTube channel, this would be an ideal introduction for you, just to give people an insight into what you like. So yeah, as always, the questions are really interesting. There's 20 of them to answer, so I'm going to try not to go into too much detail, but it's me, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, if you haven't seen one of these before, you'll get the picture pretty quickly. So let's do this. We'll start with question 1 then. So question 1 of the Metal Tag 2025. Hype. Name a release that you're eagerly anticipating in 2025. So if most of you are familiar with me, you'll know that I'm not really the most up-to-date person in terms of metal releases. Like, of course I do listen to new bands and new releases, but I'm not always instantly on them, as soon as they come out or anything. So, I buy a lot of old stuff. It depends on what I see, in the shop, something like that. But having said that, I have been aware of a couple of new releases coming out. So I would say that I'm very interested to hear the new Savatage. Savatage, believe it or not, is a band that I only discovered a couple of years ago. I mean, of course, I always knew who they were, but I'd never taken the time to listen to them. So in 2023, I watched an episode of Metal School where they gave the whole history. That's a great channel, by the way, Metal School. They gave the whole history of Savatage and, critiqued the albums. And I discovered that I really liked this band. To be honest, with Savatage, I prefer the earlier albums, where it's more sort of straightforward hard rock, heavy metal. So I sort of like up to, but not including gutter ballet, because after that they went in more sort of a rock opera direction. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just prefer the hard rock, heavy metal stuff. And from what Alan said, apparently the new one is going to return to that old style. So because I'm newly excited about Savatage, can't wait to hear the new album. And another release that I'm looking forward to, I read that Sayor is going to release another album this year. So I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Sayor, S-A-O-R. That's a one-man black metal project from Scotland, or at least it started out that way. And I just really like the concept behind this band because it's unique. It's black metal matching that, atmosphere of, the cold, rainy moors of Scotland and the landscapes. So yeah, it fits really well. And I've heard other albums by Sayor and I really like them, so I'm curious to check out the new one. So that's my answer to question 1, Savatage and Sayor. Okay, looking at question number 2. Show the 25th item, LP, CD, your choice, in your collection. So I'm going to do what most people have done and show both. So I'll show you my 25th CD and 25th record. So CD number 25 in the collection is Welcome to My Nightmare by Alice Cooper. So most people will be familiar with this. Alice Cooper, no introduction needed, Godfather, or the king of shock rock in the 70s. And this is a good album. It's very theatrical and it has a very 70s flavor. To be honest though, I do prefer Alice's sort of 80s glam metal, hair metal period, particularly albums like Constrictor and Trash. Nevertheless, this is a good album and I do listen to it once in a while. So Alice Cooper with Welcome to My Nightmare. And the 25th LP or record in my collection is none other than Hammerheart by Bathory. So again, another album that probably doesn't need an introduction. Bathory, a legendary Swedish black metal band, which pretty much single-handedly inspired the second wave of Scandinavian black metal. And this album is very special because it was the first Viking metal album. Now some people would say it was the album's predecessor, Bloodfire Death. That album had elements of Viking metal and it was starting to move over into this direction, but it was still retaining the old black metal elements, whereas this one, I think, is the first full-blown Viking metal album in history, not just by Bathory, but in general. So I think Bathory spawned that genre. And I just love this album. this album is just so epic and majestic. It's much slower than the older Bathory albums, but it's just incredibly theatrical. There's so much atmosphere, and I heard one person say it sort of reminds them of metal opera or Viking metal opera, and I have to agree with that. Like, so many great songs on this. You know them all, but I really like, for example, like Baptized in Fire and Ice, Father to Son, and my favorite song, One Road to Asa Bay. So yeah, that's Bathory with Hammerheart, the 25th record in my collection. Okay, going over to question 3 now. Overdue. Name an older band that you checked out for the first time in 2024 and loved. Okay, for me that's Candlemass. And when I say this, 2024 wasn't the first time I heard them. Of course, I've been familiar with the name of Candlemass for many years. But as you may have heard me say, I'm not the world's biggest doom metal band. But then a couple of years ago, I think it was 2022, I saw the video clip for the song Bewitched, and I absolutely loved everything about it, you know, visually and musically, and, you know, Messiah, he's such a charismatic frontman, and I just loved it. And it's interesting because I don't really, like I said, I'm not a huge doom metal fan, but this album has sort of, I bought this one based on the fact that I really love the song Bewitched, and this album has made me realize that there's more to doom metal than I thought. So I'm going to, as I've mentioned, I'm going to start checking out more Candlemass albums and more doom metal in general. Yeah, because I used to think, oh, it's a bit slow and boring, but maybe I was just listening to the wrong songs or the wrong bands. But yeah, Candlemass. So I didn't actually discover it this year, but this was the first time I bought an album by them. Yeah, so Candlemass, Nightfall. Okay, question number 4. Feeding the Monkey. How do you purchase most of your music? Local store, Bandcamp, specific online site, etc. Okay, for me, I live in a coastal town, and it's quite remote, and so there's no such thing as a record store here, so there's no music shop, nothing like that. The closest music shop is in the capital city, which is about a 4-hour drive away, and over there, let's just say the albums are overpriced because a lot of them are imported from Japan, so you get like a record second-hand for the price of a brand new one in the US. So in my opinion, it's a bit of a rip, but I still buy them from that city store occasionally, just because you see some cool stuff. But in general, I don't do record shopping anymore, and I don't really do mail order because postage is too expensive, you know, being sent out to Asia. So actually, you may have heard me say in my Q&A, the main way I order music now is through a local guy in Thailand. He lives down south, and I think that's his full-time job. So like he buys music in bulk and then sells it to local customers, which is really convenient because it means I don't have to go through all the postage expenses and rigmarole and everything, and I just pay him and he sends it to me locally and at a pretty good price, sort of a price which is reasonable. So yeah, I actually buy most of my music these days from that private contact locally, and I always say to him jokingly, can you stop getting cool releases in, because I just keep buying them, but it's very easy, so I think that's going to keep feeding the collection. All right, question number 5. Enigma. Show a heavy metal album that musically is really hard to place in a heavy metal subgenre. So for this one, it took me a while to think about it, but I ended up going with this one. This is Moonsorrow with Verisakit. So Moonsorrow probably need no introduction to most people, but it's a band from Finland. It's metal, but what kind of metal exactly? That's an interesting question. By the way, you can see, look at this extremely drab and boring album cover. This could be an example of don't judge a book by its cover, because the music is absolutely phenomenal. But if you're not familiar, Moonsorrow play a unique brand. It's like a melting pot of black metal, pagan metal, Viking metal, and folk metal. So what I mean by that is, in terms of black metal, it sounds a lot like, at least in the case of this album, it sounds very much like early Enslaved, and when I first heard this, I was blown away, and I thought, this reminds me of what Enslaved could have done if they had continued down the path of albums like Frost and Eld. So like, that's the black metal aspect, and then the pagan metal aspect is there's parts in songs where they've got these kind of like groovy, almost danceable riffs actually, that you can imagine being pounded on, you know, like on a hand-skin drum, so it's got those kind of like pagan, catchy, pagan-y, dancey kind of riffs. And then in terms of Viking metal, it's very melodic and has those Nordic choral vocals. And in terms of folk metal, there are those quirky elements like, you know, string instruments and accordions and everything, which give it that really unique Finnish flavor and sound. So yeah, like I said, it's a melting pot of all of those particular genres, and I can't say it's one more than the other, really. Like like for example, the first song on this album, which is absolutely phenomenal, it's called Kahun Kunsi. Sorry for my Finnish pronunciation. That actually means bear claw in Finnish. That song sold me on this band. I thought, this band is fucking brilliant. And like, you know, when it takes off into the epic black metal sections where like they start doing the blast beats and everything, it sounds so huge and grand and epic. It's absolutely amazing. So yeah, you can't really give this a metal subgenre name. And I hate that. You know how there's so many subgenre names out there and they get a bit ridiculous. And I think that Finnish heavy metal movie Heavy Trip made a joke about that, about how ridiculous some of these subgenre names sound. So I would just describe this as black metal slash pagan metal slash Viking metal slash folk metal. Like it's an even mix of all of those, but with phenomenal results. So if you like Old Enslaved and you haven't heard this band, I definitely recommend it. So yeah, that's my answer to this question. Moon Sorrow with, and the album's Verisakit. And like I said, check out the song Kahun Kunsi, Bear Claw, to get started with this band. All right, up next, number 6, Eating Crow. Talk about an album that you used to hate, but after years it finally clicked and now you can't get enough of it. Okay, so the wording of this question is very strong. So the album I'm going to show, I wouldn't say I totally hated it, and I wouldn't say I can't get enough of it now, but I'll say this, that initially I wasn't that impressed and I found it quite boring, but now it's really growing on me. And that is, of course, Monster by Kiss. So this is Kiss's final studio album. It came out in 2012, and I remember at the time I was really excited for it to come out because Kiss is my favorite rock band, if you're not familiar. And I really liked the predecessor to this one, which was Sonic Boom, the first studio album to feature the new masked members, Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer, who did a great job in my opinion. So I was really excited to hear this one, and then when it came out, I remember there was an initial burst of excitement, and then I just lost interest pretty quickly. And my brother said to me, "Oh, you're pretty quiet about the new Kiss album." And I said, "Yeah, I don't know, it just sort of passed me by." And then because I didn't listen to it for ages, I just assumed, oh, it's boring and it's not very good. But just recently I did a Kiss thread about my 10 least favorite Kiss songs, and I thought, oh, this will be easy pickings. I'll listen to this album, I'll find something in there for sure. And actually I didn't. So, and you know what? I really enjoyed listening to this, and it just dawned on me, this album has aged really well. It's grown on me a lot, and I really like it. Like a lot of these songs are just classic 70s Kiss. You can hear the riff style. It's very reminiscent of one of the best albums, Rock and Roll Over. Like, for example, the opening track, Hell or Hallelujah, it's just classic Kiss. And then there's songs like Shout Mercy and, you know, which have a kind of Mr. Speed kind of riff in that. But so good. So like there are a couple of tracks on here which I find boring, but overall I really enjoyed this, and lately I've been listening to it a bit. So yeah, a complete turnaround of my opinion. Initially I thought it was just like boring radio friendly rock, and then just recently I thought, holy shit, this has aged well a lot and it's grown on me. So Kiss, Monster. All right, what have we got next? Okay, 7. Impulse. Show an album that you blind bought in 2024. Okay, so for me, one album was 3 Inches of Blood with Advance and Vanquish. So this is another band I've always been familiar with, and I actually, believe it or not, I saw this band live in 2010 at a festival called No Sleep Till Sydney, so in Sydney, Australia. And that concert was really interesting because it featured a mixed bag of bands. Like there was this band, a Canadian heavy metal band, 3 Inches of Blood. But the reason I went was to see Megadeth. They were performing their 20th anniversary set of Rust in Peace, my favorite Megadeth album, and War also played, and that was absolutely entertaining and hilarious. I saw on stage dinosaur decapitations and got coated in intergalactic slime and all of that. But yeah, this band, I'd never seen them, and I remember really enjoying them. But the strange thing is, after the concert, I couldn't remember any of the music really. I suppose I was focused more on Megadeth and War. But anyway, I saw this recently in a shop in the capital city. It was cheap, and I thought, yeah, give it a go. This is another one that sort of defies classification really. It's sort of like a new wave of heavy metal band. It takes inspiration from new wave of British heavy metal, but also speed metal, thrash metal, and even power metal. So it's like a melting pot of those genres. But if I'm being honest, it wasn't a complete blind buy, because I remember when I saw this in the shop, Canyon had spoken about it on his channel. He showed the record and he said he loved this record. So I thought, oh yeah, I've never heard this. I've seen them live, and Canyon recommended them. So as he would say, I thought I'd give them a whirl, and actually glad that I did, because I really enjoyed this. I got it about 4 months ago and I've listened to it so many times. It's really good. Probably my favorite tracks on this are Premonition of Pain, what's the other one? Wicked Tron, and Crazy Nights. But yeah, if you just like traditional heavy metal, thrash metal, power metal, and speed metal, check this out, 3 Inches of Blood. So that was my blind buy last year. All right. Okay, question number 8, Collector Scum. Show a title that you own more than one pressing of in the same format. Okay, for me that doesn't apply actually. So as many of you know, if I really like a certain album and I have it on CD, I'll buy the vinyl as well, but that's 2 different formats. So there's many albums that I own in both CD and record format, but I don't own, you know, I don't have multiple copies on CD or record. Particularly regarding record, I'm not one of those people who needs multiple pressings. I'm not that much of an aficionado. You know, for me, it's just like, if I have the record to listen to, that's enough, so I don't need multiple editions and multiple colors or anything. And with CDs, I think, what's the point? It's a waste of space. I don't need to have more than one. However, this is kind of cheating, but Running Wild under Jolly Roger. This is a deluxe expanded edition, which I bought in Greece. Actually, I showed this in my very first YouTube video, where I had like a collection update from Athens. So that was years ago now. But yeah, this album under Jolly Roger, absolutely classic. You know, so it's traditional heavy metal, power metal with a pirate theme, and I absolutely love it. So this isn't really multiple formats, but like I said, this is kind of cheating, because what it is the original recording on disc 1, and then a re-recorded version on disc 2. So it's the same album, but it's not exactly the same recording, but that's the closest thing I have. But yeah, absolutely great band, and I love this album. So that's the closest I have. That's the closest answer I have to having multiple pressings in one format. So that's Running Wild with Under Jolly Roger. All right. Okay, question 9. Show off a grail, something that you really wanted, that you acquired in 2024. Acquired, and I think I required it as well. So first of all, this is Summon with Fire Turns Everything Black. So if you're not familiar, Summon were a black metal band from the US, Lansing, Michigan, and they started out as a black metal band, but as they sort of went through different phases, then they evolved. They went in more of a morbid angel death metal direction, and then with their last album, Fallen, it was sort of like an amalgamation of black thrash and death metal. Really good, but this is the demo, Fire Turns Everything Black, which I owned for many years on CD. I bought this off Relapse on CD in 2001. It brings back great memories. And then I recently saw that Nuclear War Now had re-released this, and my local contact, he was advertising this one. So I snapped that up quickly. Really happy to have it. Like, this is one of my favorite Summon releases. Like, fantastic songs on this, like Eve of Anti-Creation, Praising to a Blackened Moon, and my favorite, Burning Black Desire. If you haven't heard Summon, especially this album, this EP, sorry, it's like a cross between Old Marduk and Old Immortal, so no wonder I like it. So I was absolutely thrilled to get this. And I'll just show another one. Another one I also got from my local contact was Dark Requiems and Unsilent Massacre by Hecate Enthroned, the symphonic UK black metal band. Yeah, the reason why I consider this one a grail is because these early albums, the first 3 and the EP, were released by Plastic Head, I think, or an older label anyway. And these days you can get all of their newer stuff on Bandcamp. It's quite easy to find, but it's harder to find these older albums. So I just said to my local contact, have you got any old Hecate Enthroned? And he said, yeah, I've got Dark Requiems. Snapped it up instantly. Absolutely love this band and album. So yeah, these would be my 2 grails of 2024. Summon with Fire Turns Everything Black, and Hecate Enthroned with Dark Requiems. All right. All right, question 10. Yeah, a plea to the VCLT gods. What is a grail that you are on the hunt for? Okay, now I've mentioned this many times and people are probably getting sick to death of it, but one album that I used to own on CD, and it was very rare, and then stupidly I loaned it to a workmate along with several other CDs, and I never got this particular one back. There's a lesson there, is Castrum, Black Silhouette Enfolded in Sunrise. So Castrum were a vampiric symphonic black metal band from Croatia, interestingly. So if you like early Cradle of Filth and early Hecatean Throne, you know, that sort of like British black metal sound, early British black metal sound, and early vampiric black metal sound, even though Hecatean Throne's not vampiric, but you know, in terms of the sound, yeah, you would love Castrum. And I was just listening to them again on YouTube the other day, and I thought I really need to track down a hard copy of this. So anyone, if there's anyone out there, if you know where I can buy a copy, or if you have a copy that you're interested in selling, it's very rare, I'd be very interested. So, and I also recommend this band, go and listen to them on YouTube. So please, VCLT gods, I'm after this album desperately. Castrum with Black Silhouette enfolded in Sunrise. Okay, next question. 11, Boomerang album. Show an album that no matter how many times you purge it from your collection, another copy returns to you. I'm not really one of those people. If I get rid of albums, it's for a reason, because I don't like them. However, there is one album which returned to me once, and that is Incantation with the Infernal Storm. So, Incantation, need no introduction, one of the old school big hitters in US dark death metal, along with Immolation. Incantation, Immolation, they go hand in hand. And when I was introduced to them by Relapse, and I really loved the album Diabolical Conquest, and then I bought this one shortly afterwards, and I was a bit disappointed because it was a good album to me at the time, but I just thought it was a bit languid and slow and boring. And as just another heavy metal maniac said, the vocalist on this album was Mike Sayers, and no offense to him, but I think I agree that he had the most underwhelming lead vocal voice in Incantation. So anyway, I didn't think much of it, so I sold it to a contact at the time. Like, this was, God, 20 years ago or something now. And then recently, when I was doing some market shopping in a mall in Bangkok, there was this secondhand CD shop that my brother and I used to go to, and I think we were the guy's only customers. So whenever we bought albums from him, he'd sometimes throw in 1 or 2 free ones, and this is one he gave to me. He said, have this, and I thought, oh, you know what? It's missing from the collection, and I'll be interested to hear it again. And you know what? I actually appreciate this album more. It's just, like I've said, in general with Incantation, they can be a band that takes a while to click with you because they're a bit sludgy and doomy, so it might sound a bit slow and languid and boring, but like in the right setting, or when you hear it in the right way, it's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, some great tracks on this, like Anoint the Chosen, Extinguishing Salvation is good. What's Impetuous Rage, Sempiternal Pandemonium, Nocturnal Kingdom of Demonic Enlightenment, great stuff. So like Enlightenment, sorry. So if you like dark death metal, yeah, check this album out. Incantation with the Infernal Storm. It's returned to me once, but I intend to keep it now. All right. 12, Reunion. Name an artist that you had lost track of over time, but you reconnected with in 2024. Okay, so for me, that was Broken Hope, which is classic old school death metal from Chicago, Illinois. I went through a massive Broken Hope phase because I've been a death metal fan for a long time, but this was one band that had always passed me by, and I think it was like 2019 or something. I bought this album first of all, Swamped in Gore, the debut, and then I became obsessed with this band, and now I own most of the releases. So here we go. That's my Broken Hope collection. I think I've got most of them. I think I'm just missing Grotesque Blessings, and that's about it. But yeah, classic old school, gory, groove-driven death metal, which is really dark, really heavy, really morbid. I absolutely love it. And my absolute favorite album by them is the debut. Not to be an old school elitist or anything like that, but this literally is my favorite. Like Swamped in Gore, it's an absolute death metal classic. So yeah, just really glad to have reconnected with this band. And there was no reason I stopped listening. You know, just things come and go, don't they? Like you listen to new albums or you go through phases of listening to bands. But yeah, this is one band that's here to stay for me, and I'm glad I reconnected with them in 2024. So that's Broken Hope, and this debut is Swamped in Gore. I also own Bowels of Repugnance on vinyl. Yeah. Okay. Question 13, Upstart. Name a new band whose debut album really impressed you. The debut didn't have to come out in 2024, but recently. Okay, so I don't actually have an official answer to this question because I cannot think of a debut album that I listened to in 2024 by any particular band. Pretty sure. Yes, however, there are 2 bands where I've heard the demos in 2024 and I thought, I would take this opportunity to highlight those. So first of all, one band that recently released, I'm not sure if it's a demo or just a couple of tracks, is a band called INEBRIATED Winds. And some of you already know this. The man behind that project is Matt from Maddox Deep Shadows, another brilliant black metal channel. Matt's from Australia, wicked sense of humor, and he's into all of his, extreme metal stuff, especially black metal and controversial black metal, that kind of thing. And he started this project called INEBRIATED Winds, collaborating with a few other musicians who are anonymous for now. But yeah, it's just really primal, raw black metal, and that really taps into the emotive aspect of black metal. So there's 2 tracks which are out. I'll leave the links for these channels in the description. But yeah, INEBRIATED Winds, 2 tracks have been released. The first one was awesome. The second one really blew me away. It's very melodic and hypnotic, but in a raw, primal way. It's absolutely fantastic. And just, the production, the vocals, the screams, everything's absolutely on point. So I'm not just saying this to support a friend in the YouTube community, but if you haven't checked out Matt's band INEBRIATED Winds and you like black metal and raw black metal, definitely do so. And related to that, another band that I discovered in 2024 is another Australian band called WARHAMMER 666. So this is primarily a one-man black metal band run by a guy called, I think his name's Lee, originally from Sydney, I think, but now living on the east coast of the US. And actually, I connected with him through Matt from Maddox Deep Shadows. So Warhammer 666, that style, it's interesting, like based on the name, you'd think it's war metal. And I think there are aspects of war metal in there. Like he's got 2 demos out. And the way he described it, it's sort of inspired by old Venom and old Bathory, which is true, especially in the first demo. And I also heard in the riffing style, there's a strong Celtic Frost influence with those sort of like heavy death metal-esque riffs. Like Celtic Frost have always been credited for black metal, but I think a lot of the riffs they played inspired death metal as well. But anyway, yeah, so that's Warhammer's first demo, but then I recently heard the second demo, and that really floored me. It's absolutely brilliant. Like at the beginning, it reminded me of a band such as Impiety or Abominator, just shredding black death war metal, absolutely ballistic and aggressive, fantastic. And I really liked it, but as the demo went on, there are also other aspects where it's like traditional black metal, and there's a lot of atmosphere and there's melody as well. So it's not just like primal war metal or anything like that, but a really diverse listen of extreme black death metal. I think you could say it takes inspiration from both. So yeah, for Warhammer 666, if you like bands such as Impiety and Abominator, fantastic Australian band. I need to get more of their albums. Where from? Osmos maybe? But anyway, I digress. But yeah, if you like those kinds of bands, you'll like Warhammer 666, but it's not just straight out war metal, because you know how war metal often sounds like blasting drums with a bulldozer just riding over the top. With this, there's actual, harmony and melody, and the riffs are really good, and the vocals are excellent, like really raspy. So yeah, they're 2 bands which impressed me a lot in 2024. So both from Australia, INEBRIATED Winds and Warhammer 666. I'll leave the links to their channels below. All right, question number 14. Influencer. Show a band release that you bought in 2024 as a direct result of watching someone's YouTube channel. I can't think of one actually, but this is the closest. This album by Vargrav, The Nighthold. I always call it The Night Realm for some reason, but yeah, Finnish symphonic black metal inspired by Old Emperor. So if you like Old Emperor, definitely check out Vargrav. And it was primarily a one-man black metal project, but then he hired musicians, including none other than Werewolf from Satanic Warmaster, etc., etc. Yeah, really love this album, and I was aware of its release, but it's hard to come by again. But then the person who reminded me to buy it was Scott from No Solution, because he showed the CD on his channel. And No Solution, that's another great channel, so go and check out Scott's channel. And when he showed the CD, I was like, damn, that's right, I've got to pick up this album. So I spoke to my local contact and he ordered it in. Absolutely fantastic symphonic black metal album. A lot of people have said to me they didn't like it or they weren't impressed. I really just don't understand. I think it's brilliant. So yeah, anyway, Vargrav with The Nighthold. All right, question 15. Don't judge a book by its cover. Show a great album with bad cover art. Now this is interesting because some of you will remember, if you've been watching my channel for a while, back in the second half of 2022, for my 300 subscribers thread or contest, whatever you want to call it, I devised a contest exactly like this, where I said, show 5 albums which are great, but the cover art's bad. And the opposite, show 5 albums where the cover art's great, but the music's bad, you know, or relatively speaking. And a few people participated in that contest. So in that, I showed 5 examples of each. So I've chosen something different for today, just to make it more interesting. And so this is an example of don't judge a book by its cover. The cover art, the cover art's bad, but the album is great. And that is Medieval Demon with Arcadian Witchcraft. And some of you are saying, is there even a cover art? Exactly. See how obscure this is? Now, the design is actually pretty cool. So Medieval Demon are a black metal band from Greece. They play very much in that Hellenic style, but they also incorporate elements of hammer horror with the keyboards and everything to make it really spooky and creepy. Absolutely love this band. But you can see here, the picture is actually pretty cool. It's showing 3 witches around a cauldron, which to me is very, very much like Macbeth. It's very atmospheric. And Macbeth, let's face it, was my favorite Shakespeare story, because it's about like castles, plotting, murder, witchery, the cold moors of Scotland, what's not to like. But yeah, so this reminded me of Macbeth, but the problem with this cover art is it's too obscure, you can't actually see it. But don't be fooled by the somewhat disappointing cover art. The music within is absolutely brilliant. Like I just said, you know, melodic Hellenic style black metal, but also incorporating sort of icy and spooky elements with those like pipe organ keyboards and everything. It's very, very theatrical. So absolutely brilliant album and band. Check out all of their releases. So that's Medieval Demon with Arcadian Witchcraft. Like I said, the cover art itself is cool, but it's just not bright enough. Enhance that artwork, please. All right. Sorry guys, just taking a break there to get a drink of water because I'm speaking too much. Okay, question 16. Rembrandt, show an album whose cover art was created by one of your favorite artists. So one of my favorite artists in metal music in general is Necrolord, you know, who painted, you know, like The Secrets of the Black Arts by Dark Funeral, but I've shown that album so many times, so I thought I'd be original today and show a new artwork that I really like. This is Funeral Storm with Chthonic Invocations. Just look at that absolutely brilliant, majestic, colorful, enchanting artwork. Just love it. Funeral Storm is a Hellenic black metal band, so they play in that melodic Greek style again. It actually features Necroabyssus from Varathron, one of the big hitters in Greek black metal, but this is their sophomore album. Absolutely fantastic. I love the first one too. And that was done by the same artist. So the person who actually painted this picture, I believe, was Marcus Vesper. And they've still got that theme of this skull-faced creature, which was in the first one. And I also mentioned in an earlier video that the first album, what was it called? Arcane Mysteries, is one of my favorite artworks of all time, but this is a strong contender. So this artist is Marcus Vesper, who painted Funeral Storm, Chthonic Invocations, or the cover art there too, I should say. Is that such a word? I don't know. All right. Question 17. Name an album that you would like to see reissued on vinyl or CD, or your preferred medium. Okay, for me, that is Marduk Dark Endless. So what I forgot to mention was, I don't think I mentioned this, I've been doing the metal tag since 2021, and in the 2021 metal tag, I said I was looking for this on vinyl. How tardy and slack, I still haven't found it. I know that Mr. Norwegian Black Cult from Estonia, he said you can hunt this down, you know, on Discogs or something like that, but I don't want to pay, you know, massive money for it. I know it's been re-released with a new artwork. I'm not interested. I want the original because it's one of my favorite artworks. So like, imagine if this was re-released, like repressed and like remastered, I would still buy it. I'm just really interested in a vinyl copy of this with the original artwork. So Marduk Dark Endless. So if anyone knows where I can order that from, please let me know. I'd really appreciate that. And preferably not from some obscure seller on Discogs, you know, where it's going for crazy money. Just like a standard vinyl pressing of Dark Endless with the original artwork. That'd be cool. All right. God, I'm taking a long time, sorry. Question 18. Name an album from a genre that you typically do not listen to very much. Okay, so first of all, I haven't chosen any goth punk or industrial because in some sort of strange, dark way, they're kind of related to metal, so I thought I'd choose something completely different. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I listen to many other kinds of music, although it's 90% hard rock and metal, but you know, I do like a lot of other genres, you know, once in a while. And talking about a band from a genre that I don't normally listen to, I've chosen Talking Heads. So how do you describe Talking Heads? They're sort of a band that defies classification as well. Like they've been described as new wave, art rock, pop rock. I'd say in a very general sense, it's like pop rock. I don't really see the punky element, or it's like kind of post-punk. You know, they initially played at CBGB's, but like it doesn't really sound like punk rock. It's more just like pop rock to me. But the difference is, I see why it's called art rock, because it's just very quirky and off the wall, and that's primarily due to the songwriting abilities of frontman David Byrne, who's very eccentric. Like this music is just so quirky and weird and off the wall, and David Byrne has a unique voice. And I remember when I was a kid and I first heard his voice, I didn't like it much, but then it grew on me. But this band is just so eclectic, so interesting and so weird. It's not your run-of-the-mill pop rock. So if you just like, it's not exactly experimental, but if you just like weird off-the-wall music and something different, try Talking Heads. And so this is a greatest hits album I have, but like it's got all the classics here, like Psycho Killer. That's probably the most famous song by Talking Heads. I also really like Take Me to the River, Found a Job. Oh, that song sticks in my head, Found a Job. What else? This Must Be the Place. Really like that. Probably my two favorite tracks on here are Girlfriend Is Better. Very dark track and very groovy. That's cool. And also Burning Down the House, another classic. So yeah, that's my choice for this question. It's post-punk, it's new wave, it's art rock, it's pop rock. Talking Heads, great band. Okay. And question 19. What band do you hope to see live in 2025? Okay, so there's no one I'm really dying to see, but there are a few things coming up. Like at the end of this month, I'm going to see Enforcer from Sweden, and my brother introduced me to that band. It's just like new wave of traditional heavy metal, and I absolutely love it. I can't wait to see them live, so that's Enforcer. Also later this year, I think Toxic Holocaust are coming out here, and they're not one of my favorite bands, but I do like them, and I do want to see them live as well. Another band that I'd like to see is Iron Maiden. I think they're doing their follow-up tour, you know, like playing songs from all the classic albums. So if they come to Japan this year, it's not very far from me. So my brother and I were talking about potentially going over to Japan to see Iron Maiden, which would be absolutely awesome, like once in a lifetime opportunity. So we'll see what happens. And another band is actually Scorpions. They were supposed to come out here in 2017. My brother and I bought tickets and everything. We were really excited about it. But because of some tragic circumstances, they had to cancel that concert here. And come on guys, like that was 2017. How many years later are we? 7, 8 years. It's time to come back, Scorpions. So come back to Thailand. You're very popular here, even though they're popular in this country because of the ballads, but they also play the metal stuff as well. But I just really like to see Scorpions this year. So guys, komm zurück, bitte. Come back, please. Okay. And question 20. In closing, tell your viewers about 2 YouTube channels new to you, which you discovered in 2024, or just about 2 channels you enjoy. Okay, so I'm going to mention this officially, but I already have mentioned him in a previous thread video, and that is Justin, another heavy metal maniac from Canada. So it's great to see a lot of people have mentioned him in this metal tag, because he really wholeheartedly deserves it. It's just a new channel that popped out of nowhere. I only discovered it recently, but it's absolutely brilliant. Like, he's very knowledgeable, very articulate. He does album rankings of all these bands I like most importantly, he did a Marduk one. Recently he did an Incantation one, but I just find his channel so informative and entertaining, and he's a really nice guy. So check out Just Another Heavy Metal Maniac from Canada. And another new one which I sort of got into last year, this is a much bigger channel, and that's called The Metal Meltdown. That's a guy also from Canada, and that's a very varied channel. Like he covers all sorts of genres of metal. Like he does reviews, he gives opinions on albums and releases from anything ranging from like new metal and metalcore to black metal and grindcore, and he's just really articulate and witty and hilarious. And what I love about his channel is whenever he's very honest with his opinions. So imagine he says, I hate this album, it sucks. And then there's a tirade, a backlash of all these people sending negative comments to him. he runs these videos where he has a drinking game where he has to take a shot every time someone insults him or, says something negative, in a personal way. And so as the video progresses, you see him drink more, and in his responses, because he's very articulate and intelligent, he absolutely destroys them. And he gets a bit boisterous. It's fucking hilarious. So the Metal Meltdown, it's really good comedy material, but also very informative. So that's my next choice, the Metal Meltdown. Now, another one that I discovered last year, which is quite a big channel now, and a lot of people, you will know this, is Mendicant Media, and that's Jeff from Australia. And I was always aware of that channel, but you know how like there's so many channels out there, you don't get around to watching them all. But I started watching his recently. He's another Aussie as well, based in New South Wales, yeah. But just a very laid back guy, like very Australian in his accent and delivery, and he's very articulate and so knowledgeable. He's got an absolutely massive collection. And I saw one recently where he did a breakdown on grindcore. So no, not grindcore, gore grind, I think, and he was talking about all these different albums, and some of the comments he made in that video were absolutely hilarious. Like, I won't say the particular one that I cracked up at, but it was like, he's got a very deadpan sense of humor and he's really funny. So I'd recommend Mendicant Media as well. And that's about it. I mean, I just want to say in this, so with those channels, I will leave the links down in the description for Just Another Heavy Metal Maniac, The Metal Meltdown, and Mendicant Media. Also, thank you to people who shouted out my channel on this heavy metal tag. So one of those was Just Another Heavy Metal Maniac, and someone else was Explosive Action, Simon from Explosive Action. And I love Simon's channel. I couldn't believe it when I was watching his metal tag. I nearly fell off my chair when he mentioned my channel. I thought, wow, that's really cool, because Simon's very knowledgeable, very respected in this community. He has thousands of subscribers, rightfully. So if you want to know in detail about extreme metal, check out Simon's channel. And he's very knowledgeable and articulate, and I love those videos he makes, as I've said many times, where he goes on shopping trips around Sydney and he's looking at albums and buying them and providing a running commentary, and then he'll go and get lunch and a beer or something. It's just so entertaining. So yeah, Simon's channel is fantastic, and thank you very much for the shout out, Simon. Really appreciate it. And yeah, and then the rest of you, I mean, I've made so many great friends in this community over the last few years, and I've got to know a few more people a bit more, just chatting on Facebook and everything, like George G from George G's Room of Rock, and Devon from Maze of Torment, and there's so many of you. So thank you guys. I really feel part of a community, being involved in this metal thing. So it's absolutely fantastic. Anyway, I've been going on long enough, so we will wrap it up there. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and please do check out those bands and channels that I recommended. All the links will be in the description. And that's all I have to say. I don't want to waste any more of your valuable time. So as always, thank you for your support of the channel. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.